Hey, look, I'm in a web browser in a Linux operating system in another browser in a VMware ESXi that's running on VMware ESXi that's running in almost finished here, VMware Workstation Pro. So how did all that get there? I'm going to rewind and talk through getting there. So I'm going to walk through how we install some VMs in our ESXi install. So I previously created a VM in VMware 15.5 with VMware 7. Now what I want to do to get this set up is I'm going to check some settings to make sure that I have first an extra hard drive. So I have one that's dedicated to the ESXi, and then I have a second one that we'll use to install a VM or two. I've gone ahead and loaded a DSL, damn small Linux ISO file. We'll also be able to load one once we're in the web client as well, and I'll show you that as we get closer to it, and I'll show you the differences of doing it that way. So we're starting the machine. This will take just a moment or two. Okay, now I have the IP address and I can log into the machine. So I'll go to the browser. This is on my host computer, this browser. And I'll go ahead and log in. Okay, enter my password, log in, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize the screen. And let's see what we have. Alright, so I can see the different resources available. I'm going to expand this view here, and then let's go check our storage first, because right now if I try to create a VM, I wouldn't have storage. So let's do new data store, and then we can see the different options here of local or mounting. Alright, so if I did mounting, it would be looking for a remote data store volume. What I'm doing, since I have that disk on there, is local, so I'm going to hit next. And there's that 50 gig second drive. We'll hit next. We'll give it a name first. Now it's saying this is what the drive will look like after. I pick which version. So I'll go with the latest version. There's just different capabilities depending on the version. Hit finish. And it's saying, hey, we're going to reformat your drive. I say that's no problem. And now we can see that we have that data drive. Now we can go back to the host view and we can create a new VM. Again, I'm going to create a new VM. This first time I'm going to go through and use that DSL ISO file. So I will tell it DSL. And I'll go with this compatibility. And it's Linux. And let's see, what version is that? Well, again, this first one I'm not really planning to use. I just want to show you what it will look like in the menu, and then we'll do another one where we'll upload the ISO. So we go next, and we can configure our resources for this device. So I'll double the RAM here, and maybe a little more hard drive space. And next. Alright, here's a summary of everything. We'll hit finish. And now you see over where it says virtual machines, now that it says 1, and there's the machine that we created called DSL. Now we can start it. And actually I need to go into the settings. So edit. I need to change the CD drive that it's trying to go for. So instead of trying to look for that ESXi drive, I need to change it to the DSL ISO. Okay, so save that. Now let's try to power it on. Now I can see that it's trying to power on that DSL install. Now the features and everything in DSL are pretty limited and small, and I have to really install a good bit more stuff. So I just wanted to do that one as a quick proof of concept. Now I'm going to jump over to a different operating system where we can get a little bit more options and a little bit more to to look at what we were looking at the very beginning of the video. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to create a new VM. And remember, when I had my settings, I only had that one ISO with that DSL ISO. So what I'm going to do here is I'll give it a name. So I'm going to go with a Deepin OS. It's a couple years old, but it's a kind of a neat one. Now my issue here is I do not select the correct version, because as Deepin's evolved over just a couple of years, it's they keep changing the kernel. Select my data source, same one that we used before. Set my resources. So I think I'll give this one. I'll give this one 4 gigs. And now I have to figure out how am I going to get that to install. So I'm going to disconnect this first CD drive that's there. I'm going to add a new CD drive. And then I'm going to be able to upload. And this is just go through a web browser. This is, again, just all on my local computer, that what I'm looking at right now. All right, so I'll go to the place where I store my OS files. Go in here, and then it's going to upload. Now I have the ISO file, so I'll select it, click on it, select it. Okay, and we'll tell it to connect at power on. Tell this other one not to connect. All right, looks good. Next, now we can go through again, verify our settings, properties. Okay, and that's not it. There it is right here. Okay, so I have the Deepin ISO. All right, now what we should be able to do is go up to our virtual machines, and we'll see 2 instead of just 1. Now if I click on Deepin, I should be able to start the machine. And this is looking good. So I'm going to go through the install. This is pretty straightforward. At this point, it's going to ask me my disk. And again, this is that disk that we allocated in the ESXi client here in the web browser. So I'll select what's available to me. Okay, so we've successfully installed. I can see down below in my vSphere browser client here all the different logs of different activities that's going on. So it's telling me I need to disconnect that drive, so I'll do that real quick. Okay, so the machine's restarting, and I can see the little thumbnail view. Click into it, and now I can log into this VM using my very secure password. And I can select which mode. I can tell that it's running in a VM. So I'm just going to go with this effect mode, but it really doesn't matter what you go with. You just may notice some, performance differences depending on which one. Again, I didn't give it a large amount of resources, so I'll go with the one that's supposed to be faster. All right, so that's booting up, and that's pretty much it. Now I can go through and I can use this VM, and I can create clones, and I can do all of the different stuff that we can do in virtual machines on this ESXi. Again, the ESXi should be running on a bare metal install. Realistically, that's the way it's intended. But I can do all of this stuff. I can work in the browser. I can install snapshots, backups, replication, do a world of computing through virtual computing, through virtualization. So I hope that this tutorial has been helpful and eye-opening, and I hope that at this point in what we've been covering, if you're viewing this as part of my class, that you see that we've covered a ton of material, but there's a ton more out there. So thank you so much, and I hope this video has been helpful.